Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Football Chatbox. My name is Ryan, and welcome to the Game Week 10 podcast episode number 98. I realized that as soon as I said that, for some reason, my window of what we're sharing in terms of the slides is all messed up because I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. Okay, fixed it. I'm joined by my co-host Rushant, who is committed to the cause of helping us to get to 1,000 subscribers. And he's just finished work, I guess.
Yeah, just coming. Sorry, hey guys. Yeah, I know. I just was meant to be at home an hour ago, but yeah, anything for the podcast, right? Can't miss it. And yeah, it seems like we're very close to 100 episodes as well, which is great.
Indeed, 2 more episodes to 100. Hopefully, we can get to 1,000 subscribers soon as well. Is the goal. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Kom, Shiraz, Plowboy, Joseph, Amit, Mira. Mira just had her stream just before us as well, and Freddie as well. Thank you all for joining. Now we're going to have a very interesting chat in terms of premiums, big hitters, and all that sorts. Because Rush, just to give a hint at the moment, is you got 3 premiums in your team, with Haaland, Salah, and Saka. I've got Haaland and Palmer. So I had Saka, I sold him and bought Palmer in. Unfortunately, both decided to score. So we're gonna have an interesting discussion in terms of that, and you're having a pretty good season, had a really good game week this week. Me on the other end, I'm on free fall, and I'm looking at Haaland, and I'm like, damn you, 15 million, good for nothing. All of that is coming to me. How do you feel so far? Like winning those 3.
Yeah, good and bad. Like I think the weeks that Palmer kind of went off, and especially watching his highlights over the last couple of game weeks, made me really nervous not owning him. Compounded with the fact that everyone's captaining Haaland and he's not really doing much. But yeah, it's a big call. I mean, I've had Salah since the beginning, and it's a decision that I've kind of stuck on with. But there's going to be a time where I'll need to bring in Palmer, especially with the fixture round, which we'll talk about in a second. And yeah, even the Saka one, his injury status was a bit doubtful. I think I had enough to potentially bring in Palmer with our transfers, but yeah, I just didn't think the fixture was right for this week. But it turns out I was wrong because Palmer is fixture proof. But yeah, look, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting discussion with whether or not we're going to still carry on with Haaland or not.
Fair enough. Okay, let's bring the fixture ticker up like you mentioned. So Wolves, these are next 6 game weeks. Wolves are top of the ticker. Obviously, Cunha scored on the weekend as well. And Ain't Nouri, for anyone who went defensive like cheap, he went and scored as well, even though they didn't keep a clean sheet. Ipswich are their second, but to be honest, Ipswich defenders, I don't know, they haven't been doing too well. I guess if you had like Delap in terms of attacking, not a bad option. Brentford, third. Brentford doing pretty well. Visa is now back as well on the goals. Leicester, Jamie Vardy's not too bad. He's ticking along slightly. And then there's Everton. Less said about Calvert-Lewin, the better at this point. One more week, to be honest, I'm giving him. And after that, I need to find a way to ship all these goals. How did I even fall into this trap? I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, yeah. I mean, interesting. Like, I think all the teams you're seeing up there, you wouldn't typically be going for a lot of these players in these teams, but yeah, I think it's fixture based now. And yeah, Wolves has been a great shout so far. And yeah, I think we're talking about Cunha and Ait Nouri are probably your main options. Yeah, I think you're definitely going to have to look into fitting into bringing at least 1 or 2 of them. The interesting thing about Wolves and with Cunha, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the price points, is when you do have that premiums that you're trying to fit in, especially with Haaland and co. How do you then fit in Cunha? Is Cunha your second striker, or is your third striker? You just got to play around with the money a little bit, I think, because you do have a few more strikers in the slightly cheaper option. But yeah, I just think bringing Cunha in would just mean that you're sacrificing a little bit more on some regards.
I mean, when you mentioned cheaper options, you got the likes of Fulham, Jimenez probably at that slightly lower
Yeah.
price. Then you also have obviously Visa at 5.9 as well. Strand
Yeah.
Larsen from Wolves again, same thing, 5.5. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess it depends on like what you kind of want to get. Whether you want to go with the tried, proved and tested Cunha, I guess from an FPL perspective,
Yeah.
or do you want
Yeah.
to save on the cash and go with like a Strand Larsen or someone and use that 1 million because it's
Exactly.
1 million, right? It can be used elsewhere as well.
100%. And yeah, interesting that you talked about Wisa as well. I think, in that top 5 or top 6 teams that we're looking at, to be honest, I don't think Ipswich really call out too many names that interest me, even though the fixtures look good. He can only be trusted for so long, and there's not really anyone else that really call out your name. So yeah, in that top 4, you're really looking at your Wolves and Brentford players to really maximize your returns over the next upcoming 6 game weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so let's bring up the goals and clean sheet odds for game week 10. And the teams that stand out this week: Liverpool 2.55, expected to score the most amount of goals this week. Obviously you got Salah, so big up there. And then City 2.15 against Bournemouth, and Spurs 2.05 at home against Aston Villa. And interestingly, I don't know if Manchester United sacking of Ten Hag has anything to do with it. That United are expected to score 1.75 goals against Chelsea. Chelsea also the same. They're expecting like a goal fest over in that game. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I mean, I'm glad finally Ten Hag's gone. uh, just watching United, not really doing much. I mean, what were they actually doing? I mean, we've been seeing the last few game weeks, and the players are out there with really no plan. And it's always good to have this kind of manager change that at least for a few games you can kind of see something hopeful happening before they fall back down again. But yeah, I'm looking forward to I think they've got a decent run of fixtures as well coming up,
Mm.
with maybe a couple of bad ones, but
Well, from 11 to 13, they have like Ipswich,
yeah.
Everton, and I think Leicester as well in that run. So, would you look at investing in United players, or what would it take you to look at investing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like in a normal circumstance, I would probably say let's wait and watch because you never know, and it's the same team really, compounded with a few injuries as well. That's something that you got to note. They've got their defensive line is all injured. Mazraoui is kind of questionable. Shaw's injured. Like it's just going to be a bit unpredictable with what sort of team will come up on the day. But yeah, I think as a punt, and it's going to be a very very short term punt. If I was to bring in players, it'll be for those 3 game fixtures you just talked about, really. But yeah, it's kind of a gamble, really, because you just don't know what team would show up on the day. But
Mm.
yeah, if not, look, long term, it's just a wait and watch, really. I'm not rushing to bring United players. I think there's a lot more other players that you can target. So yeah, unless you're really behind in a league or you want to try something out of the
Crazy.
box, I'm not
Yeah.
recommending bringing United players. But it's definitely something for us to keep an eye out on.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's talk about the premiums. Now, Haaland, Salah, Saka, Palmer, and I guess Heung-min Son can also be added into this because he's expected to be available for game week 10. Where, first of all, Haaland, where do you stand on Haaland?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I've been having this thought as well over the last few days, just with just a disappointing run. I made a call last game week where I didn't captain him, and that was very nervous.
Head off.
I was very nervous the whole time. Thankfully, Mbeumo paid off. But yeah, look, I think it's going to be like anything, right? I think if you are very confident that the other 3, the big 3 we're talking about with Salah, Saka, and Palmer, are going to be able to consistently deliver over the upcoming 6 game weeks, which is where and if you've got a much better captaincy option that you think you will always choose someone over Haaland for every single of those game weeks, then I can see reasoning to drop Haaland, at least for the short term. The thing is, it's Haaland, and it's still Man City. It's still, the top team in the EPL and probably one of the top best teams in the world. They don't have another number 9. We know Haaland's on pens. We know he's the main man. If he's playing 90 minutes. All that factors put into play. It's gonna take a lot more than 3 blanks in a row to really drop him.
Mm.
And we know the damage he can do against any team. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that City's got a few other injury situations that I think is also affecting the way they're playing at the moment. But it's Pep and Haaland, and the fear that you're gonna sit through every game week, is that really worth it? I don't know. But it's something for us to really like to see what he can build up with without Haaland, really.
But yeah, without Haaland, you probably can like afford quite a lot. Like those three, like Saka, Palmer, you can have a midfield of Saka, Palmer, Salah, and
Yeah,
have like a front line of like Watkins. Obviously, Isak will have good fixtures very soon as well. Havertz come game week 12, Jackson come game week 12. Like there's that fixture turn that's coming in game week 12 as well, right? So
yeah,
a lot of good strikers do appear on that time as well. And
yeah,
it's not strikers from like we're talking strikers right now. We're talking like what Cunha, we're talking Jimenez, we're talking Visa. These are strikers from the top teams
mm.
coming in game week 12. So that's also, I guess, you have to kind of consider.
He can. I mean, the only thing I was like thinking about this as well is like, when with dropping Haaland, you'd expect your overall team to be boosted.
Yeah,
Means that you'll now be able to you'd want to be able to own the likes of Trent, for example, another premium defender. But then I was looking at the defensive line, and I couldn't see many names calling out for premium defense. Trent's been so this season. I know he's still, probably the best defensive asset in the game. But do you really need Trent and the likes of a premium defense to get through? I don't know. Because I think my thought process was right now with Haaland, you can still probably fit two of the budget forwards, call it, with the
yep,
likes of maybe a Cunha, maybe a Strand Larsen, maybe a Wissa, and you can still have a decent-ish midfield, which is what everyone's got right now. It's not like it's the end of the world still owning Haaland, and you're not missing out on like the likes of Trent, who's giving like a clean sheet and assist every other game, or some other Guardiola who's just scoring clean sheets after clean sheets. You're not missing out on too much by owning Haaland. I think there'd be a much stronger case if there were defensive players actually performing really well, where there's going to be an easier case for you to drop Haaland to free up those funds.
yeah, that has definitely been a problem because like the likes of Arsenal, right? I wildcarded in game week 6 and moved to double defense of Arsenal. I expected 3 clean sheets in 3 easy fixtures. That has not happened. If anything, Fabianski has almost got close to equal in Rea in like Rea's 4 games, and Fabianski has just played 1 game. um, s-
Exactly.
so yeah, that's definitely an issue because you're expecting these big players from those defenses like 5.5 goalkeepers, 6 million defenders, and they're not getting points. Um, if anything, you've seen Gabriel now gone off injured. We don't know what's the status with that. Trent obviously hasn't been really keeping clean sheets in the last couple of weeks. Now they can still do well, but over the next couple of weeks, maybe not because fixtures are a bit so. But game week 12 onwards, obviously, like Arsenal's run improves, so you're hoping that they improve their defense. But we
Correct.
don't know, right? It might just continue the way it is, and then you just go, oh, I might as well just get like cheaper defenders, and keep Haaland, and then boost the midfield with the money that I've freed up from defense.
Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, look, in saying that, obviously, like you said, fixture based, and Trent against, if you got 4 out of 5 good fixtures in a row, you'd want to have players like Trent in your team. As much as they haven't performed so far, you know that when they do perform, it's going to be a big haul. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, I'm just with the thought process that until I see some consistent defenders, and I haven't been able to nail 3 solid defenders this entire season who I want in my team, even if it's the likes of an Arsenal defender, like you said, there's been no performance, and they're a bit shaky now, especially with Gabriel's injury. It's going to change the whole Arsenal defensive lineup going forward. Um, then depending on how severe his injury is. So yes, that I think all that put into play. I'm kind of still like in that process of, okay, if I was to drop Haaland, yes, I'm gonna have to drop another premium to make sure so I can probably bring in the third premium that we're talking about. But if I was to keep Haaland, then I sacrifice either a Saka or a Stella, for example, and kind of drive it based on fixture run. But I'm not losing out too much value everywhere else. There's not a big case. Plus, I get to keep Haaland.
Hmm. Fair enough. Compelling arguments.
Mm.
I guess it depends on like your FOMO in terms of like how much do you want to be sitting behind that couch when Haaland plays. Um,
Yes.
I think the one thing that could change Haaland's situation is if KDB is back. And right now, I think Pep has said he's not yet fully fit. He said probably after the international break, which is again that game week 12 turnaround. So maybe I guess it's worth kind of waiting and seeing how it goes in the next couple of weeks. Fixtures are not too bad for Haaland still, to be honest. And with the new format of the Champions League and also Pep coming out and saying like Carabao Cup, he's just going to rotate significantly. He's mainly going to be playing the Premier League only, to be honest. Okay, we'll wait and see how that goes. Talking
Yeah.
about yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, one point. Yeah, like I said, international break is again coming up in a couple of weeks.
yeah.
So yeah, I think you got Bournemouth, which is a good fixture for United for City. Um, yeah, there's no rush to make that call right now. Especially because Chelsea is playing United as well this week. So you really, yeah, I think your decisions can wait a week or two, even until after the international break to make that decision. I don't think it'll be too late.
Mm,
You know, the 1 game week for Palmer, I think you can still wait till the international break.
yep, fair enough. Okay, talking about like supporting cast, the other forwards. Now, you have DCL, I have DCL at times. I don't know how we ended up in this situation, but we ended up in that situation. But you have, I think, Jamie Vardy as well, who
I have
is
Vardy.
doing the business. Me on the other hand, I have Solanke, who's even worse because he doesn't take shots.
What
Now,
is it got in 3 games? I think, or 3 shots in 2 games.
yeah, it's
Bad.
just bad. He has collective of 0.1 xg in 3 games, which is bad. Now they got 2 home games next though for Spurs. And obviously Calvert-Lewin has Southampton this week. If you were looking for forwards, where would you go shopping in like the cheap market that we just discussed? Or would you go for like a Jackson slightly earlier? Or even a Isak maybe because their fixtures are going to slightly turn.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your funds available and your game plan forward. I think if you are not planning to drop Haaland anytime soon, then I'll probably be leaning towards those budget picks. But if for whatever reason you think that you're going to be dropping Haaland, bringing the likes of Palmer, Salah, Saka, which means that you'll have a bit more money to play with in your front line, then yeah, I think Jackson's a good shout, especially with Chelsea's fixtures turning, and you could go up with a double up in Chelsea attack, which will be a good play, I think. In saying that, I think these cheaper budget options are still really, really good value. So like the likes of Cunha and Wissa, I think are probably far much more value than the likes of Isaac and Jackson as it stands. Um, so I don't think there's a major difference between that 7.5 or the 6.5, $6 million price point. I think, with the fixtures like we saw before, how Wolves and Brentford still have amazing fixtures the next 6 game weeks, you're probably leaning more towards those players than the likes of Isaac and Jackson right now.
Hmm.
But definitely, if you are dropping Haaland and that sort of third striker, second striker spot where you have a bit more money to play around with, I think they're definitely good shouts.
Fair enough. Now I got the last 4 game weeks forwards stats on the here. Obviously, keep in mind that with Strand Larsen and Matheus Cunha, they've had tough games in the last 4. Only the last game was like the first of the easiest run. And this is sort of by XG non-penalty. So Haaland is still on top here. Then you got the likes of Havertz and Jackson. I guess another player who deserves to be mentioned is Danny Welbeck, who's been doing really well. And again, another one of those budget options. Game week 12, their fixtures are brilliant because they face City and Liverpool next, but then after that run is really good. So maybe another player that I might even potentially look at, like if I wanted to get rid of Solanke, probably Welbeck as well. Especially if like Joe Pedro is not back yet. would be an
Yeah,
option.
well, it's amazing. What, 3 returns in 3 games before this coming up to these 2 hard fixtures. But yeah, you're right. Like, I think there's so many options in that. Apart from DCL, you can put him in the bin. Uh, I think even Raul Jimenez, the $5.7 million. Chris Wood is another player we haven't really
Yes.
talked about, but he's been killing it.
Would you go for
That
Chris Wood? Like the fixtures are now getting a bit more harder, but his form is just insane.
yeah, it is interesting. I think that he's got an injury destination at the moment. I just don't see him being this like he scored like what 8 goals or 7 goals in 9 games. What's
Yeah,
his
something
stats?
like that. So Chris Wood in the last 4 games though, he's had 4 goals in the last 4 games.
Season, how many goals has he scored this for the
This
nine
season, I
games?
think about 7 so far.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 7 in 9 games. Do you really see him keeping up that rate till the end of the season? I don't think so. I
No.
think he'll have turns. He's on penalties. Look, he's not a bad shout. I think he's been in a really good form, and the way Forest are playing is really good. I think Nuno's just turned it around completely. So he's definitely an option. Like, I'm not going to discount him and say don't consider Chris Wood, especially with fixtures as well. But he's definitely up there for discussion.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, yeah, for me at this moment now, Calvert-Lewin is like 6th on this list just because he's like actually non-penalty. I've already but the guy just can't get any goals. That's the only problem. He's still getting the chances now. I'm hoping the game against Southampton he can actually do something. And then we mentioned Solanke as well. In terms of the next 2 fixtures, is not too bad. I think the one thing that's kind of like stopping me from putting Solanke in the bin right now is purely that Ipswich fixture in game week 11. But if that wasn't there, he would have been gone.
Yep.
This week.
And it's probably the same. You're probably going to keep DCL this week as well, right? Because he's playing Southampton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I kind of have to. I've made so this season. Apart from being slightly unlucky, I would say.
Yeah, you're really unlucky.
I've done transfers too early, so I've gone a week too early on all my transfers out, and the players I've sold, they have returned. Like this week, I sold Saka. Maybe I shouldn't have sold Saka. Should I just kept him? But he returned. I sold Smith Rowe as well. He has a return. I sold Diaz as well. He has a return. So,
Yeah.
and then in like the past, I sold Jackson for Solanke. Since I sold Jackson for Solanke, Jackson has scored 2 goals and Solanke is just doing nothing. So,
you can't do all those things. Sometimes you've got to
yeah. I don't want to.
live with it.
Yeah, I know that's what. So I don't want to risk it this time. I'm like, okay, let me just keep them, see how they
Yep.
do for the fixtures, and if they don't do it in the fixtures that I've got them for, then I just like after that I'll just sell them.
I can't wait to get rid of DCL. I just can't wait to bin him. Even if he scores 2 goals this week, I'm probably going to sell him.
Yep.
I've had enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Same. I think it's just Southampton fixture, and then after that, yeah, goodbye.
He's gone. Even if he scores a hat trick, it's going to be very. I'll probably still get rid of him, to be honest.
Yep, fair enough. Okay, so that's the forwards. And for anyone watching on chat, you can take a screenshot. This is from Fantasy Football Scouts members area. So this is the last 4 game weeks in terms of data. Back to the fixtures. Actually, no. Before I go to fixtures, I'll show you the. This is like just a table of like all the players in the last 4 game weeks, and I sorted by XGI. Palmer right on top. So I'm kind of happy I still got Palmer, even though I lost Saka for that. Jimenez second in this list, Havertz third. I do think Havertz I will be a bit cautious because until Odegaard is back, I feel like Havertz is slightly more impacted. And once Odegaard is back, I think that should improve. Haaland there, Mbeumo on this list as well. In terms of XGI, Brennan Johnson. Now that's another player who was on a hot form, now kind of has gone dipped. I guess Spurs in total have dipped as well slightly. So hopefully the next couple games is where he goes up. And then Jared Bowen and Anthony Gordon. Now, Gordon is probably injured, but Bowen, I guess West Ham, the fixtures still aren't that great. But what do you think?
I really like Bowen. I think he's definitely going to be in my team at some point when the fixtures turn. I mean, he's second on penalties, but he does play 90 minutes. is always good. And like his chances created and his shots on target, like his shots in
Yeah.
the box are insanely high for someone that low in the list.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess again, there's no rush. It'll probably be more when the fixtures turn for West Ham. Yeah, I just think right now you got Mbeumo at that price range, which is probably in your team already. And yeah, if someone cheaper, then you probably got the likes of Rogers, stuff like that. But yeah, definitely in the the watch list especially, and someone to consider if you do end up making that Haaland drop move, which would potentially clear some more funds for you for the
Mm.
midfield.
Mm.
Yeah, he's probably players in that price point, which will fit the description.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, I think Bowen kind of have to wait and see, like once the fixtures kind of improve at the moment. But yeah, he's third on this list in terms of chances created out of all these players that are on here. So that's pretty good, to be honest. Okay, I'll go back to the fixtures. I'll start with the Newcastle Arsenal one. What would you do with Gabriel? Do you have Gabriel?
I do have Gabriel.
What's the plan?
I think it's gonna be a wait and watch until deadline day. I think for me, yeah, if he's fit, he'll play. But yeah, it's just a matter of just seeing what exactly. Yeah, I probably have to figure out something with him. The other thing is he's got Newcastle and then the City next week. Is it Newcastle
They've
playing
got.
City next week?
So let me go back to the fixture ticker. They've got Newcastle and
Sure.
where's Arsenal? Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea. So not easy, to be honest.
Sorry. Yeah.
They got Newcastle and Arsenal. Sorry, Newcastle and
Okay.
Chelsea. Newcastle. And...
Yeah.
Yep. So not the easiest of fixtures. At the next two at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if he was out, how long would he have to be out for you to sell him? Is the question.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. Probably more injury.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, the fact that Arsenal haven't really performed much the last couple of weeks is already like kind of. There's no rush for me to keep Arsenal and bring anyone in, but it could be as soon as this week. I think for me, I've got some transfers in the bank I need to use. Yeah, I don't see him keeping a clean sheet this week anyway. So it could be a sell now and then bring back later.
Fair enough.
Option.
Okay.
Won't be the end of the world, really.
Yeah.
He might lose out a bit on the price point, but yeah, can't do much. He might even drop in value if he's out this week.
Yeah, true. Fair enough. All right, so that's Arsenal's like issue in terms of Gabriel. Bournemouth versus City. Do you? First of all, City obviously their run is about to turn in terms of defensive thing, like numbers. Defensive fixtures are going to like get down a bit because they have Bournemouth this week. Then they got Brighton, Spurs, Liverpool in the next three, and then they have Forest as well. So clean sheet wise, it doesn't look that great. Rico Lewis, so far he's been playing every single minute, or every single game. Will you continue? I guess you don't have Rico listed. Do you have City defenders? No. I guess you continue avoid.
No.
I guess if anyone had, or if they had, would you sell?
No, if I had, I wouldn't sell. I would still keep. Especially Rico Lewis, if at that price point you can afford to keep him, and Guardiola just returned as well. I'm not rushing to bring in three defenders, and we spoke about before the fact that the City and Arsenal haven't been keeping clean sheets at the rate that we wanted them to anyway. So yeah, I mean, there's no real rush on City at the moment for me.
Okay. Do you want to switch device or?
I probably can. Yeah.
Okay, I will take over and I'll let you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be back.
Okay. All right. So while Rashant is back, I'm just going to read the chat. To be honest. So welcome everyone. Plowby says Google Sheets. Yes, I'm using Google Sheets for this. And who didn't know? Okay. Oh yes. There was also an information about Cunha. Now Cunha Cunha was pictured in not pictured in training. He was involved at the start, but then apparently he took a seat on the bench with ice packs on his knees for Wolves. So for those who are looking to buy Cunha, maybe wait for press conference news before you go and get Cunha in. Those of you who have him, just keep him for now. But after that, I guess once Gary O'Neill has his press conferences, you'll be able to know what exactly is the status with Matheus Cunha. I think he should be fine anyways. So thank you to Freddie as well for sending that information. I did see it in the morning as well, but I completely missed about it. So thank you for reminding me about that. I'm just going to Amit says probably we will know more after the IFA game, but knowing Arteta, we would know. That's the thing, right? Arteta came and said that we kind of had to wait and see in terms of Gabriel. He said it was nothing too serious as they expected it, but he didn't really tell us for how long he's kind of going to be out for. And then obviously looking at this fixture ticker, do you guys think City will keep clean sheets in these next couple? Because they got Bournemouth, Brighton, Spurs, Liverpool. Now, even Bournemouth, I don't know if chances I will start Rico Lewis, but after that, I'm not fully certain. Brighton, Spurs, and Liverpool aren't the easiest. That is where I go, ooh, I don't know if Rico Lewis will keep a clean sheet in one of these games. And then they obviously have Forest and Crystal Palace, which is not too bad actually. From a defensive point of view. So maybe I'll just have to over these next couple games, just kind of see through, maybe rotate with a Mikalenko or something like that, and see how it goes. So yeah, that is currently the season ticket, and obviously back to the fixtures, and Rushant is back just in time. So just talking about City's clean sheets and whatnot. Can you hear me? Hello. Oh yes, I can hear you.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Back at it, yeah.
I was just talking about City's chances of keeping clean sheets for the next couple of weeks, given the fixture. Okay, moving on. Anything else to add on City? I guess captaincy. Maybe we'll touch on captaincy. Do you think Haaland good captaincy option? You have Salah, obviously.
Yeah. I think the fact that he actually got a bit of a breakthrough last week kind of gives a bit more optimism for managers. So he's still going to be, I think, up there in terms of captaincy options this week again. Yeah, I mean, he was pretty unlucky with a few chances last week, and yeah, I just thought that last week was a good opportunity for him to break out a little bit. So yeah, he's up there. Yeah, I don't know. Salah's also a good option against Brighton. But yeah, when you've got Haaland at 515.1, it's really hard to not captain him.
Yeah, true. That's the truth. And then obviously Salah against Brighton this week. But Salah, the thing with Salah is when you watch him play, he is not as involved as he was under Klopp. But because he still finds a way to get a goal, and also because they're more controlled, Liverpool, he doesn't tend to lose bonus points as much as well because there aren't too many shots going missing, and then they keep position as well, so they're a bit more controlled in terms of bonus points. Doesn't tend to lose quite a bit, whereas Haaland was on three bonus, then lost it because of all those chances missed that didn't help as well.
Yeah.
I was for captaincy, I was before the Ten Hag sacking, I was thinking of even putting the armband on Palmer. Because he's just
this week.
Yeah, this week because he's just been so good.
He has been actually, yeah.
I don't know if I still might do it because I'm here at 4.5 million at this point. I don't know if I have anything to lose. That's kind of what my thinking has been, but I probably still might keep it on Haaland. But yeah.
I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. I think especially with Chelsea's run coming up, and Palmer's just been playing at another level. He's been playing like Haaland was playing last season. He's so involved with everything, and even Jackson's goal, he had the amazing pass that created it essentially, which on paper he didn't get the points, but really he should be. there's a lot happening. He's on set pieces. He's on pen. So yeah, I mean, if anything, I would actually, looking at all the stats, I reckon Palmer's probably better than Haaland in terms of an option.
Yeah. And we'll have to see how it goes, I guess,
Yeah.
obviously. Ipswich as a Leicester, Jamie Vardy. You have Jamie. Would you keep Jamie Vardy? Because there was questions for Jamie Vardy. Like others also had him and were looking to try and decide whether to swap to Acuna or something. Would you give Jamie Vardy this week before?
I'll give him this week. Yeah, against Ipswich after they've just conceded 4 goals to Brentford. I'll keep him this week. But yeah, he's definitely I don't think I'll keep him long term as well. Even I think I brought in Vardy and DC at the same time for my wildcard. But now looking at if I was to wildcard now, he's not going to make my wildcard team, right? So I'll definitely think about moving him, into some other forward that probably has a better fixture on, either Brentford or Wolves at some point.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah. Liverpool versus Brighton. We've spoken about Liverpool quite a bit. I still think Trent still a good option for this week, to be honest. Brighton, though, Danny Welbeck is good. The one thing I'm slightly worried with Welbeck is Evan Ferguson returned and got on the goal scoring sheet as well. So just kind of want to see how the minutes are going to be managed in the next couple of weeks for that before actually deciding whether Welbeck is the one to kind of move. Like if I was to get rid of Solanke or DCL for Welbeck, I kind of want to see how those minutes get managed with Ferguson. And then obviously by then maybe we'll have a bit more of an update on Joe Pedro as well.
Yeah. It's always been the risk with Welbeck, even in the beginning as well, right? We just thought that Pedro would be the main guy on penalties, and Welbeck still found a way to score in those early games, and now he's scoring. But yeah, I think with Ferguson back, and he might kind of take a step back.
Yep.
Which is why I think for me as well, as much as Welbeck's good for now, I just think he might become a rotation risk with Ferguson and Pedro back. And with this season, I just don't want to deal with that with too much of headaches. So I'd rather just most likely I will stay away from Welbeck unless of course there's news that Pedro's out for longer and I see Welbeck consistently starting every game.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously the next one is Forest versus West Ham. Chris Wood we've mentioned. Forest defense has been pretty decent as well, to be honest. Matt Sells, for anyone who had Matt Sells as a goalkeeper, maybe should have just done that actually. He's been getting the points. West Ham, we've mentioned Jared Bowen, but obviously fixtures at the moment aren't the best. And then we mentioned on Chris Wood's fixtures over the long term, whether he's worth going for. I still think there is a possibility to kind of invest in Chris Wood a tiny bit, as long as you can bench him for those hard games, potentially.
Yeah, I think so. I think, Forest is actually interesting. I think, like you said, I had the option of going with Celsius as well at the beginning of the season. Then I went with, who was the other keeper everyone started with? Not Flecken.
Henderson.
Someone else. Henderson, that's right. So with Henderson, which is the worst choice in the world. But yeah, I guess it's always easy to look back and reflect on what we could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, apart from Wood, though, I don't think there's many options in Forest that you can really.
No, unless I was going for defensive players, but the fixtures for the next few weeks aren't the best, so I wouldn't look there as well.
Yeah.
On the other hand, West Ham, now we mentioned Bowen, but one thing that I should probably mention also is Fabianski. Started the last game. Probably might stay in goal for this week as well. I don't see any reason why they would switch. Now, you did mention Newcastle, Arsenal, Rhea might not keep a clean sheet. Who is your goalkeeper, by the way?
I've got Flecken.
Okay. This is the question, I guess, for both of us. Would you start Do you have Fabianski? No, damn it. Okay. No. Do you think I should start Fabianski over Rhea?
Yeah, I think so. If Gabriel's out, it's a no-brainer, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I might do some crazy stuff like this week. Here we are.
I actually don't think it's that crazy because if Chris Wood's injured designation, and Forest are going to be less attacking because of that, and yeah, I think that's easier. It's probably the best option for you to start Fabianski over Rhea.
Yeah,
especially if Gabriel's injured and Chris Wood's injured. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, I guess we need to wait for a press conference on Chris Wood to see exactly what the situation on that is. Okay, so I'll have a look and see. Southampton versus Everton. Calvert-Lewin, your last chance.
To be honest, I have no hope. Like I think from like you expect any other player, any other striker against Southampton to be like the best game of the season. I'm not having much hope, and McNeil's also injured,
Yes,
isn't he? He's got like
for the moment, but we don't know how what extent it is. He might be available this week. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, so all that bits of play, I just don't have much hope on DCL, scoring this week. But this is it, right? If he doesn't score this week, then he's not coming back to my team. Period. So this is his chance to prove me wrong.
Yep.
But yeah, again, Everton. Well, I think I'm actually interested in like the Everton defense as well. So I've got Keane, and I think if people have Pickford as well, this is probably a really, really good fixture. If you're
true. Now, obviously, you have Keane. I have Mikalenko, to be honest, and I think the Gabriel injury timing is not a bad option, especially if he's like out for a week or something. Perfect, Mikalenko, perfect replacement this week. Keane as well for you.
Exactly.
The one thing with Keane, I would be slightly worried is Branthwaite is back, but he didn't seem to start the last week, so I think for now Keane seems to be fine. And at this point, you might as well play Keane forward rather than Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. To be honest.
Honestly, anyone can play forward. Now, other player who's been kind of under the radar, but he's been scoring is Ashley Young.
Yes, I was having a discussion yesterday with Brett for like a scout episode, and he also mentioned Ashley Young as a player to have a look at because he's been getting like returns in the last couple of weeks.
Yep, he's got 29 points in the last 5 game weeks.
I was surprised by that. Yeah,
just very quietly, right? Like he's insane. Like just consistently having minor returns. So yeah, I think again, like I'm not bringing in like you could like I think it depends on your team and as a replacement for Gabriel if you do decide to take him out. Everton got decent fixtures the next 5, I think. Southampton away, West Ham, Brentford, United, and Wolves. So it could be a short-term plan, but yeah, I just don't see anything much more than that. Like there's no rush to bring them in, but yeah, if you've got them, you keep them.
Yep, fair enough. Wolves versus Crystal Palace. Obviously, Cunha. Now, one thing to mention with Cunha, this was mentioned by Freddie as well, and I saw it in the morning and forgot as well. Cunha was apparently, so he was pictured in training yesterday, but then he went to the bench and also had ice packs on his knees. So might want to kind of wait before buying Cunha for anyone who's going to be looking at him. Wait for Gary O'Neill's press conference to see what exactly is the status. I think he should be fine, but just a precaution, just want to kind of monitor and see how that goes as well. And then obviously Strand Larsen is $1 million cheaper. I don't mind Strand Larsen as well, to be honest. But it just depends on whether you want Cunha for because Cunha, if he does go, and because of the ball, everything is going through Cunha as well. So bonus points, he's more of a monster as well because of that. And then Ant Nouri, another cheap defender, but I highly doubt you're going to get clean sheets. You're mostly hoping for attacking returns.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves haven't won a game this season, right? Like as much as they've got like these assets that are, I did admit they've got probably the hardest starting fixtures in the entirety of the Premier League, but I think it should turn. That's what you're hoping for, really. So, yeah, I think hopefully Cunha's injury is not severe because I think a lot of people will be looking to bring him in. Strand Larsen is another alternative and probably a cheaper way into that Wolves attack. There's no one else in the midfield. Like I think Hwang Hee-chan's around, but with the likes of Strand Larsen and Cunha being more the primary focus on attack, he's kind of not really in the picture at the moment. And yeah, in defense, you got Ant Nouri. He's probably been your most consistent defender who's got returns so far to back himself up.
Yep. On the other hand, their opponents in Crystal Palace. Do you think the last game against Spurs is a turning point for Palace?
I don't know. I think they got really lucky, right? Like just keeping a clean sheet. I don't know. Spurs are weird. I just think that I started off with Eze and I was riding the Eze train and I dropped him and he scored. So I've kind of gone through the good and the bad, similar to you. But yeah, Eze is priced at 6.7 now. And he's priced low. They don't have the best fixtures long term, at least, in the short to medium term. So there's no rush to bring them in again. But interesting to see how Mateta actually, progresses now as well. And I actually think he's a good pick, but like we just talked about, we've got so many options in that forward line right now. So there's not really anyone yelling out from the Palace team.
Yep.
That says, "Put me in your team."
Yeah, fair enough. Spurs versus Villa. Now Rodgers came off pre-60. I think that might have had to do with the 90 minutes he played in the Champions League. So I think
Yeah.
that is something we kind of have to keep an eye out for in terms of going forward when Aston Villa play Champions League fixtures, how many minutes their players get, because they have enough depth to rotate as well. Same thing with Watkins as well. I won't be surprised if one game he just happens to get dropped for Duran just to give him a rest and whatnot.
Well, are they the top of the Champions League table at the moment?
Yes, they are. They are top of the Champions League table. And interestingly, this is the thing I've noticed. Like, so they play the Champions League, and then the next game in the Premier League, they don't seem to be that great for some reason. So I don't know if there's like a Champions League hangover happening for them as well. But that's something that's been recently happening against United, and then again against Bournemouth this week as well. But yeah, something I guess to keep an eye out for in terms of minutes management going forward for them as well.
100%. I think, like you said, that's spot on, because I think they're a new team in the Champions League. They are still probably figuring out how do you best manage the team, with Champions League and Premier League, and try to keep a balance of the two. But yeah, I just don't. I actually am more on the case that the Villa players have lost their FPL value because of the Champions League now, and it's very evident with the likes of Konsa, Watkins, who was at the beginning of the season meant to be like this amazing option, but I think with Champions League and that all in play, we're just not seeing the best of him. Where in previous seasons he'll get the solid 90 minutes, and you can very easily expect returns from him. They're just definitely a bit more dialed back this season.
Yeah, true. Spurs, on the other hand, obviously Solanke, hopefully this will be the week they've predicted like 2.05 goals. I have Brennan Johnson as well, which I'm happy to have. Porro, you have Porro?
I have Porro, unfortunately. This has been very frustrating as an owner, because you watch him in game and he's just amazing, right? He's killing it. There's just no returns on points, but he's at that weird price point where it's like there's no one else at 5.5 who's that good.
Yep.
And he's still your probably on paper your best option. So I'm kind of riding him, but there's going to be a point where, especially the fixtures turn, that's going to be an easy sell for me. But yeah, for now I'm just keeping him on.
Yep, fair enough. One thing to mention with Spurs is I think Van der Ven is on like 4 yellow cards. So one more yellow card and he'll be suspended for one more game. And I have a feeling there's a very high chance that he probably gets the yellow card in this game and gets suspended for the next one so that he doesn't miss the City game the week after. So for anyone looking to go for like a Van der Ven, I probably would avoid for the moment. Okay, that's Spurs. Moving from Spurs to Man United.
So Son's injury status as well.
So Ange did say that he should be available for the weekend, but not for the FA Cup fixture.
Yep.
So I think for anyone who has Son, you can probably play him this week.
And what's your thoughts on bringing in Son? With the fact that they've got 3 home fixtures next.
He might be. I don't know if he'll be the best captaincy option for Gameweek 11. On fixture paper-wise, you look at Spurs and you go, Son is probably the best captaincy option. But I don't know if he'll really be the best captaincy option. Because like from a explosive point of view, I don't mind Son. My only problem is like this injury that he's having or he's recovering from. How much are you going to like involve of him missing a week, then coming back? Is there going to be like a minutes management stuff like that? I'm slightly bit concerned on that. And Spurs as a whole, I don't know. I'm not fully convinced. So at this present moment, I'm looking to try and get off as many Spurs as possible. If you get in Son, it's probably just a short term, to be honest. I much rather prefer you spend that money on Saka or Palmer.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. United Chelsea. Now, one thing to add in terms of yellow cards, Palmer and Jackson are both on 3 yellow cards as well. So do monitor that for anyone who is looking to get them in. I've got Palmer in till my captain him, to be honest. Not fully against the idea because 1.75 was for both teams as predicted. I can see goals on both sides. I've got Garnacho as well. I'm happy to start Garnacho this week. The one thing I know Chelsea will do is they'll give up chances. The one thing I know United can do is that they can't finish their chances. They'll create as many, but they won't finish it, which is a bit of a problem. But should be an entertaining game. What do you see?
I think so too. I'm actually looking forward to this game. I think this will be a really good game. It always is. I feel like Chelsea is always a good fixture. It's always interesting. It's never going to be a boring game. But yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to your idea of captaining Palmer. For this game, I think he's definitely one of the better options. Again, it all depends on which United team turns up on the day. They're playing away. No more Ten Hag. It'll just be interesting to see. It's always, I think, these kind of games, and being a United fan, you've seen them through many manager changes over the last few years.
Yeah,
and we've always seen something different. The first couple of games after a manager gets sacked or new change.
Yep.
Whether it's just clean sheet or it's just something extraordinary happening. So yeah, I'm looking forward to some drama in this game.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the record that Chelsea have had against Manchester United. At Old Trafford, this is the last time they beat United at Old Trafford was in 2019, I believe. Oh no, not even 2019. This is FA Cup, I think. 2020. In the league, I kind of have to go.
They're actually playing. Oh, they are playing Old Trafford.
Yes,
right?
it is Old Trafford. I kind of have to go all the way to 2015, the last time they won in the league at Old Trafford. Now, I don't know. We'll see. Well, they don't have the best of records at Old Trafford.
Yeah, but then again, they also didn't have a player named Palmer in their team.
That's also very true.
Those years. But yeah, it's definitely something to watch. So I guess coming back to United assets, and would you have any United assets or bring anyone in if you don't have United assets?
So I went and got Garnacho for the 3 games to come, and also for the West Ham game. For the Chelsea game, I probably might kind of wait and see. If I was to look at United assets, I will wait to see what happens against Leicester and what happens against Chelsea. And add to that, there is also, you kind of have to monitor the status with the new manager. There are rumors that the new manager could be in by even probably next week. They're looking to try and sign him up, Ruben Amorim, from the looks of it. Try and sign him up this week if possible. So even if Van Nistelrooy manages these 2 games, your manager could have a different solution come game week 11 as well. So you're going in a bit blind, to be honest. Usually you've seen new manager bounces and the team kind of like pin itself, which you might potentially get. I don't know, but if the only one I would go for would be Garnacho, and maybe a defender between 11 to 13 for those 3 fixtures, because I think there is a possibility for a clean sheet or 2.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, as I said, like the likes of Dallo is probably your only option at the moment if Mazraoui is injured. I'm not really thinking about bringing De Ligt or anyone else at that price point, but yeah, I think there's definitely some potential. Like this, it's going to be a short-term punt. We got Leicester, Ipswich, and Everton.
Yeah,
and after that they got Arsenal, Forest, and City. So
yeah, it's very short-term.
It's a very short-term punt, but it could be an effective differential, I think.
Yep, indeed. And then the final game, Fulham versus Brentford. Mbeumo on form, Wissa on really good form. Fulham actually are really good defensive team. In terms of actual defensive data, I'll bring up the last 4 game weeks defensive stats. So Fulham are mid-table here, but they've conceded the least amount of big chances. 4 big chances conceded. Now, interestingly, I was a bit shocked that Brentford was slightly above Fulham in terms of minutes per XG considered. So slightly better, supposedly better defensive team, but they've considered 9 big chances. The one thing I look at Brentford is they can't keep a clean sheet, so they kind of have to score goals to try and win games. Whereas Fulham, on the other hand, defensively are not a bad team as well. So should be a very interesting game. But I don't know. Would you get Wissa or Jimenez in specifically for this game, or would you wait one more?
Not specifically for this game, but if I did have a slot to bring in one of those players, this is not the worst game to bring them in. I think, especially with the fact that they've got some favorable fixtures coming up. I was actually thinking about bringing in one of those players this week, and the drop would have been for DCL. So my decision is I'm still considering it really. Like, do I do I see DCL scoring against Southampton? If no, then I'll be considering one of these two other players. I know they're going to be a player I'd want to hold on for a bit longer than DCL. But you're right. I think Brentford's just goals, and as much as their defensive numbers are stating that way, they're considered like 7 goals in the last 3 games. And it's just the only solution is goals, right?
Yeah, yep, indeed. Okay, so that's all the fixtures. Obviously, defensive stats are right up here. Liverpool are still the best defensive team in the league. Arsenal second. Arsenal's numbers have kind of improved slightly. But we'll see how they continue to, whether they can keep clean sheets. It's a big question. Aston Villa there. Bournemouth are there as well. Now, I think Bournemouth might be a team that even are about to go on a good fixture run as well in come game week 12, if I'm not mistaken. So they got Brighton in 12, but then they have Wolves, Spurs, Ipswich, and I think they have a few more easier fixtures after that as well. So it's maybe something to kind of keep an eye out for in terms of Bournemouth, because the numbers are here. But yeah.
Yeah. Who would you bring in Bournemouth?
I think it'd probably be Senesi, most likely. Unless I want to go for like a keeper in Kepa and just get rid of Rhea, but I don't know. Depends on how Arsenal go defensively.
Yeah.
Newcastle are also there, so if anyone looking for a Newcastle defender as well, maybe like a Lewis Hall potentially, 4.3 I think he is, or Dan Burn.
Yeah.
In the future, but not just yet. And then at the bottom you got the Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton, Wolves, Brighton, and sadly United as well. Chelsea also there, just next to United, the last 4. Yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea's actually they have like some good defensive. I'll be considering a Chelsea defender over the coming weeks as well, I think.
Levi Colville and definitely not Reece James.
Reece James started.
Played 90 minutes.
Got the armband, 90 minutes. What more do you want? Right.
More attacking fullback and not a centre back. I don't know. We'll wait and see how in the next couple of weeks before going on to any Chelsea. But yeah. And then this is your team, Rush. 73 points. Fabulous return. Fleckan obviously there. Keane, Pedro Porro, Konsa in defense. And this is where you went with differential captain of Mbeumo returning that 30-pointer. Salah, Saka, and Rodgers with Vardy, Calvert-Lewin, and Haaland up front. You have Semenyo as well on the bench, who is about to go on a good fixture run as well, so not a bad player to have on the bench. And then Gabriel, who is currently flagged, and Greaves as well, same as me. So I have Greaves and Gabriel. Now, if Gabriel's out long term, kind of need to make that defensive transfer. Because if one of the other defenders get injured, then you're kind of screwed.
100%. Yeah, but even my defense, I'm not happy with them. Like, I'm just looking at my defensive line, and yeah, it just doesn't sound like. I mean, I was looking at options elsewhere. Like it doesn't like there's no appeal for any defenders at the moment. I just got to try playing it week by week and just try targeting those week by week fixtures.
Yep, fair enough. And then my team at this point, I should just rename it to decent team on paper, bad team on the pitch. Rhea, Trent, Gabriel, Rico Lewis in defense. Palmer, who came in for Saka this week. Rodgers, Brennan Johnson, Mbeumo, and Garnacho in the midfield with Solanke and Haaland up front. And on the bench, I had Calvert-Lewin, Mikalenko, and Fabianski and Greaves. So now I might potentially start Fabianski this week over there, especially if Gabriel is out injured. And then Mikalenko will come in for Gabriel. And this is where I'm kind of unsure on what to do. Now, I'll give Calvert-Lewin the Southampton game, which means one of Solanke or Rodgers will have to be benched this week.
Yeah.
Now, do I bench Solanke or do I bench Rodgers is what I'm kind of uncertain on.
I think you bench Rodgers.
Yeah, probably.
Pretty straightforward. You can bench Rodgers, and you got Solanke. I mean, he's got to return sometime, right? Like, it's just due a return.
We'll see.
But yeah, I think if I were you, I'm starting DCL this week because you've got him against Southampton and been in the following week for anyone else.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we'll see how it goes. Fun fact, I benched Rodgers twice this season. Both times he scored. Once he came off the bench though, because Saka was a no-show. Yeah, so I've got one return out of the 2 times I benched him. So yeah.
Look, again, I like your defense. It looks good on paper, like you said.
Yeah,
it looks
but doesn't
good.
perform.
Yeah, I think Trent will be good for the next few weeks. I think he'll give you some returns, and Rico Lewis is just depending on City just seem to do well for 80 minutes, and then they seem to concede that one goal that really screws up a defender's numbers.
Yeah, that's the big problem. But we'll see. I'm happy with the team, except for the forward line. Forward line, I hate it.
Yeah.
But the rest of the team, I'm actually okay and happy with it. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
We'll most likely roll this week and then see how game week 11 comes about. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you, Rush. Anything to add?
No, all good. I think that everyone's got some decisions to make on Haaland, and I know we probably haven't covered that in detail on, specifically which premium we want to carry through for the upcoming 6 game weeks. But I think it's just too hard to tell at the moment. Really, I think it's you can kind of have a bit of a gut feel on your own. I guess our advice is just wait for at least until the international break. You've got maybe one more game week or 2 more game weeks, is it?
10 and 11, and then international break. Yep.
So yeah, if you've got Haaland, don't lose faith just yet.
Fair enough. Yep. Wise words. I will take it into heart and keep him for the moment. So thank you to everyone who's been watching. Massive shout out to everyone in the chat as well. Make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button as well. And if you're listening to this on the audio platforms, whether that's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, do leave us a 5-star review because it kind of helps in terms of all the algorithms, in terms of people finding the podcast more as well. And hopefully we can hit 1,000 subscribers soon, and obviously 2 podcasts away from episode 100. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all, I think, Friday for a pre-deadline stream. Because Saturday I'm busy as well. So make sure to join us. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all later.
See you guys.